billing, but I will double check that, and I'm happy to confirm that separately. But given that these are legacy projects, I would have assumed that the amounts that needed to be recharged to leaseholders would have already been addressed as part of leaseholder services and home ownership services function.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was. I had assumed that the leaseholders would have been charged. Just that it would be helpful to know roughly how much.
You're asking in future if we have gateway
Please.
project reports that we have some indication of what the leaseholder.
Absolutely, not a problem. I'm sure we can factor that in.
Okay, happy to agree this, everyone? Okay, thank you. Town Clerk.
Item 6 is the Dron House window replacement and common parts redecorations report, again of the Exec Director of Community and Children's Services for decision on page 25.
I mean, this is quite straightforward, like last one. Greg, unless do you want to say anything about this?
Yeah, just to give some context, the roof project, which was the previous item, was sort of 2019 to 2020. The window replacement was 21 to 22, just to give some idea of context and timeline.
Okay. People happy to agree with this? Okay, thank you. Town Clerk.
Item 7 is the Housing Matters update for decision on page 33.
Okay, so if I can just say about this, that what Peter and I have been trying to do is cut down in paperwork. Whether we've succeeded or not is a matter for the committee to make a decision on. So what we've got here are basically 6 reports in one. So we'll take it one at a time. Okay, so the first issue is the damp and mold and condensation policy. So we'll deal with that first. Peter, do you want to just introduce? You can introduce this.
Right. Yes. So this is the draft damp and mold and condensation policy, and I would ask Bev to make a brief introduction and to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Bev.
Hello, Bev Andrews, Head of Repairs and Maintenance. So the policy update is really flagging some changes to the existing damp and mold policy. The key changes are detailed at the appendix, which is on, I think that's page 35 and 36. The key changes relate to the introduction of a risk matrix, and that's to help us, essentially for our repairs service desk, which is our call handling service. It's an aid for them to prioritise damp and mould issues and be able to give the correct priority to them. And it also helps determine what the next actions are going to be. The risk matrix has been designed also with AWAB's law in mind, which is becoming enforced in about 6 days' time on the 27th of October. So really, it's just to note the key changes, the introduction of the risk matrix to assist with prioritisation and allocation of work.
Okay, thanks, Bev. Any questions? Sandra.
Thank you. As I understand it, and I'm not expert in this law at all, the new law requires social housing providers to respond to any notification of mould within 10 days. I don't think that's mentioned in these papers at all.
Thank you. And I think this was a question that was raised prior to the meeting. So it is referenced within the appendix document. And sorry, it's actually on page 46 and 47. And we have the risk matrix, and the second part of that is guidance on how it should be used. So there is a reference there to undertaking mould treatments and also property inspections within a 10 working day target. But I do appreciate that it's not in the main policy document, and we'll take that as a take.
Would it be useful to add that to the?
Yes, it should be there actually in the main document. We will add that as an extra item.
Thanks, Bev.
I mean, shouldn't it also flag that that's a statutory requirement rather than their own self-imposed policy?
Sure, we can do that, yeah?
We can do that as part of the addition.
Thanks, Bev. Anne.
Thanks very much for the policy. I don't know if this is appropriate, but there's nowhere where it describes what are the consequences of damp and mould on children and elderly people. What are the health conditions that result from exposure to damp and mould? I mean, it's mentioned on page 46 that talks about respiratory skin conditions. I mean, is there a place in this policy to describe what happens as a result of damp and mould?
Let's take Helen's question, then Bev will ask Bev to come back.
in part it's response to Anne's question, because I think that Health and Wellbeing Board do look at the consequences of these things. So, I mean, it is an issue about some of our committee structure and trying to make sure that we make the right connections.
Yeah.
Helpfully, in this committee, we've got members from a range of different things. Kerry's on Health and Wellbeing, I chair Health and Wellbeing. So we have got a relationship whereby we can make sure that those things are covered. I guess as a policy, I think it's very comprehensive and I'm really pleased to see it. I think the next part for me is seeing, I mean, as you've got on the matrix in the back page 46, 47, etc., whereby we're able to monitor the condition of our homes and to ensure that we do meet these standards, because the policy is only as good as its implementation. So I'm sure that you'll be on top of that, but it would be helpful at maybe during this coming winter if we could see something report back in the.
Okay, thanks, Alan. I think Deputy Chair wants to say something.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, I know it mentions in here ensuring all staff are trained. So I'm just wondering, in terms of the staff on the ground, so for instance, any of the estate staff, I don't know, sorry if this is better for you, Bev, or for Peter, but I'm just wondering what training they all get, just so that we can obviously ensure, especially with the cold now coming back in, you know, often, I mean, we noticed when we went on the walkabout with the southern estates, a few weeks ago, you know, some cases where you can obviously sort of witness it just as you walk past. So obviously I just think it's important that that's then hopefully the training is implemented so that any estate staff are then, you know, flagging and raising and ensuring help is given where needed.
Yes, so we do have some training lined up for November, and that's for all of the frontline staff, sort of customer-facing staff, and also internally as well, so for our repairs service desk. So that's the first round of training, but I do agree that this needs to be sort of ongoing with constant refreshers periodically, just to make sure it's fresh in people's minds. And that's something we'll continue to communicate with the department as a whole to build on that.
Okay, thanks. Peter.
And in addition, the stock condition survey, which is ongoing, it's 100% survey, and issues are already being raised through that, luckily, and fed back into the repair service. Luckily, nothing catastrophic yet, but those reports are being passed on as the survey goes on. We're not waiting until its completion.
Thanks. Okay, so with those additional comments, people happy to agree? Layla.
Just a question regarding whether city properties were included in the National Audit Office report on finding that 23,000 homes were suffering from mold and needed repairs because of incorrect insulation installed by cowboys. And as we know, skills is a problem as well in this area. Can you tell us whether this problem under the energy company obligation affects city properties? Thank you.
I mean, more specifically, I suppose, where do you think we are in terms of damp and mould in our properties? Do you want to just sort of make a comment about that?
I would imagine, as with with a lot of landlords, it's underreported, but the Deputy Chair has raised the point about training and awareness raising. We're doing the 100% stock condition survey where surveyors are going into people's homes and looking at that. And so I think that we will be well covered by the end of that process, and also that the steps that are being put in place to enable us to manage this within some quite strict and exacting timescales. And we will be reporting on this.
Yeah, thanks. Helen.
Yeah, isn't it also true, Peter, that every time a contractor goes to one of our residents' homes, they're asked to report back on any signs of damp and mould, so that we're being opportunistic about identifying where there might or might not be a problem as well?
Yeah, we do. Thanks, Helen. We do have arrangements in place with the contractors who have to go into all homes. So, for example, the gas, well, nearly all homes, the gas servicing contractor, and certainly with the EICR work that we're doing at the moment, we do get some feedback from contractors.
Yes, can I just say I'm sure this has been hosted on board. But when it comes to damp and mould, particularly mould, I know in the past that the reports have come back that it's a problem with the tenant, that they're not airing the place properly. Whereas often what it is that the flats were built 80 years ago, before tumble dryers and all the rest of it. And it's not the fact that their lifestyle is wrong, it's just that modern lifestyle is wrong. Sometimes getting that repaired or placed is expensive because it means a considerable increase in the ventilation. Are we prepared to invest to make sure that our flats are properly ventilated for modern living? And that's really my question. A reassurance. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so the issue of insulation and ventilation are uppermost in our minds, allied to the major works programme, but also the work that we're doing with the Climate Action Strategy Group in terms of identifying insulation and looking at the ventilation that is required so we don't create even greater problems. And to the comments about it being residents' faults, we're working, we're in early stages of working with public health, who have some knowledge of how to work with residents on subjects such as that, which will come across much more constructively than if we were saying what might need to be said in terms of people's practice. But so it's a fine line and it's a delicate balance.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone. Is people happy to agree the policy? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we did take a bit of time on that, but I think it just indicates how important members are taking this issue. Okay, so the next part of your report, Peter, is on the performance dashboard. You'll just want to briefly introduce this.
Yeah. Anna's here as well, so I'll hand over to her in a minute. But I would just say that we've picked up some of the points that were raised at the last committee about voids, benchmarking and mutual exchange, though there is more to come on benchmarking, as I said earlier. And we would appreciate your comments on the length of this report. There is a lot of information in here, but we're on a bit of a seesaw because when we don't put it in, you ask for more. This is no problem. That's what you're here for. So we just need to make sure that we're getting the balance right. So if you could make any comments on that, that would be gratefully received.
Yeah, Peter's just revealing the conversation that we and her had yesterday. Anna, do you want to say a few words before we open it up?
Hi everyone, Anna Donoghue, Information Performance and Quality Assurance Manager. Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate that we're still trying to find the balance with this report. So I'd appreciate any feedback because we consider this to be a live document. And then I'd also like to just make a note that this information takes us up to the end of August. Because of when we need to provide these reports, I'm not able to provide anything up until the end of September in time for this committee. However, I would like to note specifically that for more up-to-date data, I've put in the dashboard to refer to the compliance tracker. That should say compliance risk register. That will have more information on compliance figures. But any questions, please let me know.
Okay, thanks, Anna. Questions, Helen?
Yeah, and thanks very much to the team for producing this. And actually it is extremely reassuring just looking at a page by page that there is a huge amount of performance management ongoing that as a matter of course we haven't been seeing. So thank you, it is very reassuring. I think in terms of the number of areas, personally, I'm not sure that we need to see a performance report on each one, especially when things are going in the right direction. What would be helpful, though, is if we could have a report that highlights areas where there might be some slippage or areas where there are points of concern. I think it's also quite good, actually, to see some highlights of positive activity as well. So not to replicate everything, but to really draw our attention to the things that are of significant concern so that we can focus and drill down on things. Thanks.
Thanks. Sandra.
Thank you. I mean, it's a huge report, and you know it's great that you're doing this to monitor all the work that you have. And I mean, I echo Helen's point that some key things for us would be really helpful. I particularly wondered whether we ought to have flagged where a requirement is a statutory requirement, because we shouldn't ever be the wrong side of a statutory requirement. And if we are, then we need to take particular action. And a bit like the comment I made earlier, there's nothing recorded here on income about money received through service charges, for example, for from leaseholders, which I think would be very helpful. I think that's the two main points, other than to echo Helen's point.
Thank you, Sandra. Anybody else? No. So I think the seesaw will continue for a little while longer. So I think you've got some indication of what members might be looking for at the next report. I just wonder, Anna, if there is any update, on, given that, as you say, when you had to prepare this, whether there is any update that's worth giving us around, well, I suppose particularly the electrical safety work that you're doing. Do you know what the current percentage is?
I'd point that to Bev to respond to, I think.
Thank you. I was going to mention this in a broader update about.
I'm sorry, Bev, if I jumped a gun there.
I can mention it here. We've got some really positive progress for domestic electrical testing, and as of yesterday, it's risen to 69% compliance. So that's a jump of over 30% since the beginning of July when the programme started. So it's really great progress.
That's really good news. Thank you very much for that. Yeah.
Sorry, Chair. It's just a flag, really. Well, not flag. It's just a question. Right to buy. I can see that the number of applications has reduced. And as you say, probably because the discount available has been reduced. But I just wonder if we should also say something, not necessarily today, but about the converse of that, where I think there are a small number of people who did take the opportunity right to buy, but are now asking us if we'll buy back. And I'd just be interested, it's maybe nothing to do with the performance, but it just triggers that question that if people are asking to buy back, I'm not sure that I know what our position on that is. And I think we should clarify our policy on that.
Shall we try to ask for something to come back to the next subcommittee then on both right to buy and buyback issues? John?
Yes, that could be additionally important because as leaseholders take out loans to cover the service charges, if they come to say it might be the easiest option for them. So I endorse that, saying it's especially important.
Let's do that next meeting then. Sorry? Oh, Anne. Sorry, Anne's both holding a baby and wanted to speak.
It's not my baby, I wish.
No, I know it's my.
Way past that time. I think that's a really interesting point about buying back and whether or not we should have a policy about actively encouraging that as part of our increasing homes policy. And rather than it's actually quite hard. I don't think many residents or leaseholders know about it. So it'd be good to have a long discussion about how much energy we could put into trying to get some of those properties back into social housing.
Okay, well, that's clearly something for the next subcommittee then, please. Right, shall we move on? Stock condition surveys next, Peter.
This is just an update on the progress being made with the stock condition survey and gives you more of a flavour of what's actually being covered. And I think that as of last week, the progress made was 26%. So that's going quite well. And as I said earlier, there is good sharing of information of things that come up whilst the surveys are being carried out, so that we're not waiting to the end. And it has covered damp and mould and a few other issues. So I think that's quite positive.
Okay,
so welcome to.
Yeah, Helen.
Yeah, just almost in your last sentence, Peter, you started to say something about the findings of the survey that's undertaken. You mentioned a couple of damp and mould. Is there anything else? I mean, 26% is clearly, in the scheme of things, not that many yet, but are you starting to pick up any trends or anything other than that?
Raymond, who is coordinating the stock condition survey, I think has been relatively to date, and bearing in mind the percentage carried out, has been relatively encouraged by the state of people's homes. We've identified a few where there are issues of ages of kitchens and bathrooms, which we might be able to include in the repairs and maintenance programme, but capitalise those. And that's a practice that's been carried out for some time. I don't know if
Raymond,
wants to
do you want to say
anything.
something?
I will do, yes. So we have data coming in. How it's currently structured is that we've targeted specific estates firstly. So we've done a lot of surveys currently on the Avondale estate. Certainly there are some trends which are coming through. We've not analysed them formally as of yet. We're waiting for some more data before we start doing more formal analysis. But things like links between window types and mould stroke condensation, certainly there are some themes I'm certainly seeing, but we've not analysed in great depth as of this stage.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Roman, and thanks, Peter. I guess that given that we've got such an enormous work programme already started, we know that, and a lot of discussion about the funding of that programme. If there's more work to be done that hasn't already been included on things like kitchens and bathrooms and maybe others, can we be absolutely clear about time frame, costs, implications for HRA and implications for the major works programme that we've already got in the pipeline and as I said, in some parts started. And I guess now is the time to be clear about those things, as opposed to a year or 2 years down the line and saying, oh, well, actually, we should have included this, just to get it all up there at the beginning. And then we've got an opportunity to really understand how it can be programmed into the existing programmes, if that's relevant, or in addition, if that's the best option.
Yeah, I totally endorse that. I mean, we have got a long way with the chair of P&R in establishing priority for this. So what we don't want is to go along the road in a couple of years' time and say, well, there's all this extra stuff that needs doing. We do need to sort of make sure we're clear what is required now. Peter.
Okay, so what we're doing, part of the reason that Raymond is coordinating it, though, so he can share information with both Greg and Bev, but the stock condition surveys, we're getting access comfortably so far, so we should have completed it by the end of the financial year and do the analysis at the beginning stages of next financial year, though obviously we're doing it as we go through as well. So that should give us enough time to identify anything which may cause differences to what we've already planned in a 10-year programme. Okay. So that it's a live survey, which is why it's been quite important to have Raymond heading it so that he can keep both Bev and Greg in the loop as it goes forward.
Okay, thanks. Okay, next, sorry. Gareth.
Thank you. Can I just confirm, are you going inside tenants and leaseholder homes?
No, it covers tenants' homes inside and communal areas. It does not include leaseholders' homes.
And then, so for instance, the balconies on tenants' homes, does it include that as well?
Tenants' homes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it does. Okay,
yes.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, right. Next one, inspection. Do you want to say something about that?
Okay. It's a bit weird with the inspector.
Yes. They're listening keenly now.
There is quite a straightforward report here, I think, which outlines where we are to date, the information that we've shared. I think that the regulators will be on site from the 4th to the 6th of November inclusive. We are starting to hold fortnightly calls with them. The first one will be tomorrow. And we have sent them a great deal of information. We have identified some further information, which is not new information, but there's existing information, which we will flag up to them at our meeting tomorrow. And hopefully we'll be able to add that to give them a bigger picture of a better picture of the work that we've been doing. And we've been doing staff briefings so that they are aware of what's going on. And we're just basically preparing ourselves and carrying on with business as usual, as you would expect.
Okay, questions? Judith, sorry.
Yeah, just to add that we'll be discussing our tenant meetings with the social housing regulator tomorrow too. So that will be important for residents in terms of their engagement with this process. But that's obviously led by the regulator of social housing, not ourselves. Thank you.
I think the deputy chair did want to say something about that.
Yeah,
Put your button on.
sorry. I think Judith pretty much answered the question, but just to confirm, if the inspectors have already decided which groups in particular they're hoping to meet, if possible.
Not as yet, no. So we'll be in discussion with them tomorrow, and we'll confirm timetables because some of the members of this group will be interviewed, I'm sure. So that will be work in progress.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and next is the residents with diverse needs support update. Is Helen who's doing this?
Yes, right. So
Please.
what this was is that, as you know, we're doing some work in this area, and this has been a request made for a few meetings. And what we've done here is we've given you a summary of the work that's happening in this area, but there is more to come. And this is an area of work that Helen is pulling together some of the work that she has found working with other members of the housing management team. So there is more going on than I think we knew right at the beginning of this process.
Helen, do you want to say something?
Yes, thank you. Found the right pages now. So one of the things that we're looking into is, sorry, I should have introduced myself. I beg your pardon. I'm Helen Chantry. I'm the interim head of housing management. I replaced Liam Gillespie, who left at the end of September. So essentially, I've picked up some of the project work that Liam was doing, and therefore, if you could take that into consideration with my responses, I would appreciate that.
Noted.
Thank you. So what I've identified is that there's a clear correlation between our housing needs team, our estate team, and our homelessness team. So what we're doing is a bit more of a deep dive into how we're all working together. And particularly in order to manage some of the referrals coming through from the damp and mould stock condition surveys and the inside every resident's home, inside every home project, which I will be commenting on along the way. And it's to ensure that we're capturing referrals and seeing them through from start to finish. So whilst the teams are doing great work, we don't want to lose the opportunity to ensure that we are actually looking after the residents' needs. So that's one piece, and we're also working a bit more with the homelessness team because the current focus is on statutory homelessness and prevention. And so some of the diversity work that's taking place really fits in well with that. So we understand more about what our residents need, but it's a piece of work that really starts with homelessness, but it also could start with us preventing homelessness within our properties. So it's quite a broad piece.
Okay, thanks, Helen. Any
Thank you.
comments, Anne?
Thank you. It's really, really good to read. Last week in Cripplegate, we had a really good session with the social services senior OT. And that was, it was very, very interesting, very good. And I just hope there's joined up work with particularly that department, because they do have funds and they do outsource some of their services. But I think it's a service that residents should know about, and that all officers on the ground should know about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's quite valid.
Okay.
And I'll be working with that team closely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next and last in this report is the compliance update, which I think is where I jumped the gun, Bev.
Thank you. So just for some context, the compliance tracker is used to monitor our current compliance position across all the main areas of statutory compliance. All compliance targets are set at 100%. If any compliance falls below 100%, it's flagged on that tracker, along with actions that we're taking to resolve a target date to achieve 100% compliance, and any mitigations that we have in place to reduce the risk. I just wanted to highlight a few areas where we can see that compliance rates are below the 100% target, and also perhaps behind schedule in terms of when we expect to get back to target. Key areas are around electrical testing and remedial works, fire risk assessment, remedial actions, and Legionella cold water tank inspections. In terms of what we're doing in that area, we've already mentioned the good work that's happening with the domestic electrical testing, which is great. In addition to that, an updated major works plan has also been developed, and that's to address the communal electrical remedial works, for which there is a large volume. And that looks to certainly bring some of that volume to completion ahead of the original schedule. We'll also be looking at putting some extra control measures in place to mitigate the risks around that whilst we wait for those programmes of work to be delivered. For the FRA remedial actions, the volume of actions has reduced across all risk levels from the time of last reporting. There's a large volume that are in progress, and we do expect to improve compliance performance certainly before the end of this year. But I think just to treat with caution, this is certainly work in progress, and it will continue to be work in progress for a period of time. For cold water tanks, some more improvements here. So compliance in this area has actually improved. As of yesterday, we're now at 73%. That's a rise from previous 50%. We're still experiencing some delays, which are mainly due to gaining access to communal tanks. And that's where the access is through loft hatches, which are actually inside residents' homes. So we have to arrange access with the resident to get up into the roof space. But we are working closely with our contractors and also with the estates teams to get access to those properties. So again, it's work in progress. I think that's really the key areas I wanted to highlight.
Any comments? Yeah, James, you go first.
Thank you. Just in terms of the approach to fire risk assessment, and only having joined this committee relatively recently, apologies for not necessarily knowing the answer. Are those FRAs done by our own staff or third parties? And where I'm going on this is FRAs can be quite subjective, and I've just seen you get two different organisations do FRAs. You can almost get two different answers. I just wonder how we get real assurance around what around the reporting on that, and indeed the necessary actions. Thank you.
Who's going to answer that one? Peter.
Right, so we use a third-party organisation to carry them out, and you're right, they can create more problems than they solve at times. So we've been working on getting the quality assurance right. So getting the FRAs and us looking at them and challenging. So that is certainly increasing to make sure that we get sensible actions which don't have a lot of duplication and take account of updates that we may have given the fire risk assessor. So that is definitely work in progress.
Thanks.
Thank you. And do we ever do a deep dive into fire risk at this committee or not?
Do we ever do a deep dive? Should we be doing a deep dive, Peter? You turned it off, Rob.
Sorry. There are a number of subjects we could do deep dives on, and so we could add that to the list, because what we're proposing to do is to do a deep dive on ASB for the next committee, but we could do it for the following one.
Okay. It might be worth us having a little list of
Yeah.
possible deep dives going forward. I mean, I think what we should actually be saying is just how much work you guys have been doing over the last few months to get us to where we are now. So it's been really excellent.
Thank you, Chair. I would welcome that, because I think the deep dives are important, but I'm also, I don't want to overwhelm the team.
Yeah,
but I just think having that sort of forward look of
Yeah.
areas that we should be looking at, I think would be really helpful. Thank you.
I think Sandra's next.
This is a question as a relatively new member. If these are all statutory requirements and we're sort of falling short in a number of areas, do we have to report to somebody like the Health and Safety Executive or somebody, maybe the regulator, that we're missing the statutory requirements and offer our remedial action, or what? This is just an open question, really, because I don't understand.
This is a very topical question because on the 1st of July, we reported ourselves on our electrical safety performance, which was way off. It was in the 30%. So we did that, and we didn't do a remedial plan in this instance because the regulator is inspecting us. So it's going to be, I assume, rolled into that. And if there are any health and safety issues which are reportable, we rely on our head of health and fire safety to guide us on that as well. So we're live to those things, and we've now got, I think, the team in place to keep us safe. Not just us safe, but keep residents safe and the organisation safe.
So we're confident we've got the right process, so we don't compound a problem by not reporting and all of that. Thank you.
John, did you? Okay, Anne.
Yes, thank you. I would welcome a long session for deep dive discussion about housing matters in general. One item that I would like us to discuss is the Grenfell inquiry and the learning from Grenfell about social housing in general. And that would be, I would really welcome a long session on those matters and the state of, you know, the detail of what we're talking about.
Okay. You might be really talking about a member briefing rather than something at this subcommittee at some point, Anne, do you think?
Yeah, I think a member briefing with a discussion and maybe, you know, an expert in who's written an independent report or somebody from the Grenfell inquiry to come and talk to us.
We can look at that.
Yeah, Chair, I would like to-
John.
Yeah, if I could add to what Anne's just said, of course, we have the strange situation that we as a committee reacted in a certain way to Grenfell, sprinklers being the typical example, which was later on rejected by residents and tenants and caused us all sorts of trouble. So certainly it would be great to learn lessons from that as to how we approach these situations in the future. So I wholeheartedly agree that thing would be worthwhile. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Helen?
Yeah, thanks. I know this conversation, I think, has been very interesting. So, you know, James talking about a deep dive for FRAs and about Grenfell, etc., etc. I read this and I can see where you're indicating there are some delays. I don't have a sense reading it of exactly the level of priority you might give to each of these. So for me, there's something about it's all important. I'm not suggesting that it's not. But if you could only do one or two, three things, what would they be? So what are the real highlights, the absolute must-dos from your officer's perspective would be helpful, I think, to us to take a perhaps more measured or thoughtful approach to some of the things you're suggesting in here. So, you know, major a delay, but that on page 137, but that's on low risk actions. So, you know, I'm not going to be too worried about that. Whereas electrical safety would be much higher up my list of urgency.
Okay, so Bev may have a slightly different view, but I would think that the electrical safety, fire risk actions and getting those contained and progressed would be critical. And then we can never take our eye off stuff like gas safety, for example. So I think that those would be the top three. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah. Are you nodding, or do you want to say something?
Yes, I do agree, Peter. And I think just to add to it as well, where we turn our attention to has a lot to do with what controls we might have in place. So how, if we've got some good risk mitigation to balance those risks, it enables us to turn our attention to areas maybe where there is less control. And, you know, that can change with other measures that we might be bringing in through other projects. So I think it's something we've always got a sight of. It can be a moving picture, and we just need to be aware of the changing landscape at any time, really.
Okay, thanks. Okay, thanks very much for all that, Peter. Town Clerk.
We are on item 8, which is the renewal of flat roof coverings at Petticoat Lane, Middlesex Street. The decision on page 141.
Greg.
Thank you. Yeah, another legacy project from the Major Works team dating back to 2020/21, successfully delivered as a project. In terms of the lessons learned from this particular one, better information management I think there was a different structure in terms of delivery of projects, which is probably reflected in the absence of some information relating to this, which this particular project, which we could certainly benefit from going forwards. But we do have new sort of robust systems in place now.
Okay, people happy with this? Okay. Clark.
Item 9 is the decent homes fallbacks for 2020 to 2022 for decision on page 147.
Great.
And a final legacy project from the major works team relating to delivery of decent homes works to properties that dropped out of previous decent homes programs or were inaccessible for various reasons. This was swept up in a callbacks project, if you can refer to it as such, that was delivered from 2020 to 22, delivered successfully by an appointed contractor. Since then, the approach has been to deliver decent homes works as part of a rolling programme through repairs and maintenance. But going forward, we're factoring it into our long-term capital programme for the major works team.
People happy with this? Okay, thank you. Town Clerk.
I'll keep up with you, Chairman. It is item 10, the allocated members to the City Corporation's various housing estates, October 2025 update for decision as well.
Okay, I think all this is that we did have a resignation from Sarah Gillinson, and Mark Wheatley has offered himself to cover the Lambeth estates. So unless anybody objects to that, Mark's there just in case anyone isn't going to object to it. Helen wants to say something.
Definitely not an objection. Thank you very much, Mark, for agreeing to do this. It's a more general comment about the allocated member scheme, because I think that now we've got a full complement of members, we need to focus our minds on the feedback process that we get from members and how John is and Anne and probably Kerry are quite vigilant in their feedback, but others to date haven't been so because we haven't been able to allocate until now, but we do need to get that feedback back. And I think given that members have been having the opportunity to go and visit as a group the relevant estates, and we're starting to get a bit of feedback from that, now is the time to really focus on that lead member getting to grips with the estate and with the local councillors, so that there's a strong relationship between the host boroughs and ourselves, so we are absolutely on top of what residents are feeling and thinking.
Yeah, I think this has been a little bit delayed in that Peter and I are still talking about what the relevant lead officer role is vis-a-vis the lead member role, and so I think we've agreed, Peter, haven't we, that we'll get that done pretty quickly and get something out to lead members before the next subcommittee.
Sure.
John.
It'd be worthwhile considering holding a workshop for allocation members and officers once you Peter got it together, so we can share experience and work going forward. I think that would be really useful.
That sounds like a very good idea, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Well done. Congratulations, Mark. Town Clerk.
Item 11 is the Housing Resident Voice Group. This is for information on page 157.
Helen, did you want to say anything about this?
So thank you, Chair. So this is a project that has been ongoing for some time and refers back to the resident engagement, resident involvement strategy that went to committee in September. So this is part of the work that's being delivered under that, and the report itself obviously encapsulates what took place before, but since the report went to committee pack, there is additional information which if you would be interested, I'll be happy to give you an update on.
Okay. Anybody got any questions? Sandra.
Forgive me, because this may have all been discussed before I became a member, but I don't understand how this committee group fits in with the various resident associations about the place.
No, that's a valid point. Thank you for raising it. So it's a standalone, separate group, and the objective of the group is to provide oversight and scrutiny to the work being done by officers in terms of whether committee packs and different items on the agenda and so on. But it's a mechanism whereby residents can shape services, and that's a key aspect for us. It's the direction of travel.
Sandra.
Sorry, but isn't that what the residents' associations do?
Residents associations, if I may, are focused on their own estates. This is allowing residents to have a wider view of our whole housing stock and our engagement with them as a totality rather than just on a single estate basis. So it's a different mechanism. It doesn't replace residents associations. It should enhance that conversation. Thank you.
Helen.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really important piece of work, and I'm aware that a lot of the work was done before you were here, Helen. So I appreciate that you're picking up a piece. I think it is important that all estates are represented, and given the numbers that's been proposed here, we need to give some thought about whether that's extended to include all of our estates or whether it's in some part maybe a borough representation, but that I think becomes a bit tricky, and it needs to link to the lead members, lead officer work. And I think it also needs to, there needs to be a connection with the policy and resources lead member role in resident engagement. Now that has excluded housing outside the city boundaries to date, and I think still does. But nevertheless, there'll be some important pieces of information that would be helpful for the policy lead to be aware of. And I guess the other point for me is being clear about how this feeds back into the work that we discuss here and how we're able to incorporate the comments and feedback into not that, well, it might be the major works programme, but on the day-to-day work that we do on all of the estates to make sure that we're really building on the feedback that we get.
What I'm thinking is that we really do need to do a bit more work on this, Helen, and link in so that we're aware of, as Helen says, how that links in with lead members, but also how it links in with residents groups as well. So I just wonder whether we should give ourselves a bit more time to get this right and give a report to the next subcommittee.
Okay, the first meeting of the group is actually tomorrow.
Okay.
And tomorrow evening, and we've always been very clear, I think, that this is almost let's start off, let's get moving, because this has been on the cards for some time, see how it works, and then we can adapt it if it's not meeting the mark. So, for example, how it feeds into this committee could be a report to this subcommittee on a regular basis, flagging up any of the issues they have. But there are lots of models of scrutiny that I've observed in different places, and you can have the purely representational one, but then that is the one that actually begins to overtake the work of the tenants associations, in my experience. So the model we've gone for is something more focused just on the scrutiny element, where luckily we've had a number of people come forward, so there's a good spread, not one per estate, but there is a gratifying spread, if you like, and that we take that forward and see how that works. So that group is the top of this sort of scrutiny pyramid, if you like, and there will be an opportunity within there. If for example, they were to decide that they wanted to do a deep dive, take a look at our repair service, for example, then that is the stage where you might look at a time limited group that would look at that particular area, and that's the time when you would look at having a more representative involvement in a group that's focused on a particular area of work.
Peter, I think Peter.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it actually does fit with what you've said, and I think the meeting tomorrow, some of the things that we just said here, if you could explore that with that group tomorrow, and then bring it back to the next subcommittees, just so we can see how everything fits together. Okay. Lady, did you want to say something?
Yeah. How did you select these 7 people?
Okay. Do you want to explain the process?
Yes. So there is a facility called Commonplace, which is online, and it's a well-established form of communicating, so residents can communicate with the city. So we've used that as our means to communicate with residents, and we asked, and I think the resident flyer is in your pack, page 161. So that went out to estates and it also went out on Commonplace, and we received 18 responses. And we looked at what residents said about their reasons for wanting to be involved and some of the backgrounds that they brought with them, which was very diverse. And I'd like to reassure members that we had 8 out of the 12 estates represented, which in a small number of people shows I think it's quite an interesting response. And also these were residents who don't typically get involved, and most of them did actually state that they'd like to have got involved. Some residents have lived with us for 30 years and now feel it's time to step up and use their professional skills in order to do some scrutiny work. So that was clear that that's what came through, and that's what we used. The personal statements was what we looked at, and that's what defined who we picked.
Okay. I think
Yep,
included.
yeah.
I know. Included in the report next time. Perhaps you could just sort of show us how you made that selection, and there may well be questions that members have. Philip, you want to say something?
Yeah, Steve, I just wondered if you'd had any input on this at all as the chairman, or any other members, because I'm just slightly interested that we've got an entire selection process going on with no input from us. That's all.
Yeah, no, there's been no member input to this. This is why I think maybe we just should bring it back to the next subcommittee, Peter, and have a full debate about it. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Well, does it start?
Well, I think the thing is there is going to be that meeting tomorrow night. It would be useful for some of these issues to be explored with that group of people, and they will have views. And I think then it would be very good for the subcommittee to hear what they've got to say, and for us to have a full conversation at the next meeting. And there are a range of issues about whether we need to adapt it in any way, given that. Okay, people happy with that?
Agreed.
Okay, Sam Clark.
Item 12 is the Inside Every Home Project Household Surveys for information on page 163.
Helen, is this you again? I bet you're glad you're here. Yeah, microphone.
It's a good opportunity to actually get up to speed. So outside of the report, I can give you an update. Essentially, the update is that we have a project manager, a dedicated resource in place. We have we've done some recruitment on a temporary basis to get the staff in place to go and start the door knocking. The door knocking has started on Avondale, and is working in conjunction with the damp and mould, which we've already heard is in place on that particular estate. And we are looking at, which is why I referred to the referral mechanism earlier, because we are looking at how we then triage those referrals coming through to ensure that we're supporting our residents, which might include adult social care referrals and tracking them through to completion.
Yeah, thank you, Helen. Any comments, questions, Anne?
Yeah, I think this is great. So thank you for doing this. What about non-compliance of tenants who just say, no, you're not coming into my house?
So we are aware that that's likely to be there. We're probably going to have some residents who just don't want to engage, and we anticipate that we will have to take steps to work with them and work with the estate teams to understand why they don't want to allow us through into their properties. There's all sorts of reasons for that. Hoarding is one of them.
Absolutely, and also fraud in terms of subletting, etc. Okay,
that's correct. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, okay. So you're not going to drop it. You're going to pursue it.
No,
that's fine.
Because we need to know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, this is an excellent initiative, and I'm sure subcommittee would like to hear progress as it goes on. Thank you. Hey,
Item 13 is the Housing Major Works Programme Progress Report for information on 169.
Greg.
Yes, thank you, Chair. If provided members are happy, I'll just provide a brief overview, then I'm happy to take any questions. So in terms of the latest progress report, we've outlined the current position in terms of the £70 million expenditure to date on previously delivered projects, and a further 40 million that's currently been committed to current live projects in active stages of either design or delivery. It makes reference to the previous stock condition survey of 2018. We know that's going to be superseded by the results of our latest stock condition survey, which is currently underway. It highlights in terms of importance the requirement for 2 compliance related programs relating specifically to fire safety and electrical upgrade work, which follows on from some of the points that Peter made earlier, and also makes reference to the growth bid to the P&R committee as part of the future funding requirement for delivery of the capital programme. I'll provide a bit of an overview in terms of some of our legacy projects and projects that are coming to a close. So we had 4 window replacement projects which have all now reached practical completion, which is certainly a positive. In terms of William Blake Estate, which is one of our pipeline projects, one of our more immediate ones, Bailey Garner has now been appointed with an anticipated start of works in summer 2027. So we're about to undertake the design development process now. And then moving on to some of the other prevalent projects as well in relation to the Golden Lane Estate, Phase 1 Crescent House. We're targeting a planning application for January 26, to be preceded, of course, with a consultation event towards the end of November, early December. There's plans for a leaseholder update letter to be issued, hopefully by the end of this month. And in relation to Phase 2, which is the wider estate, we've got a design development currently underway, with Cuthbert Herringhouse currently being prioritised for an accelerated delivery route at the moment. So that kind of covers Golden Lane in very kind of brief terms. Moving on to Middlesex Street, we previously touched upon the situation relating to the first tier tribunal and the inability to access 4 specific properties on the estate and bring successful completion of that project to a close. We do have injunction dates set now in terms of the court hearings scheduled for the 29th and 31st of October and the 7th of November, although the tribunal decision, which related to the cost specifically, isn't expected until the end of the month. So we're waiting for further update regarding the first tier tribunal. And then finally, in relation to the fire door replacement programme, we're currently in lot 4 of that now, which is ready to be delivered, which we hope to initiate in the early part of 2026. So just to recap, that covers the South Bank Estate, Windsor House, Sydenham Hill, and then also Isledon House and Spitalfields, which will be delivered as part of separate packages, Isledon and Spitalfields specifically. But that should take us through the bulk of 2026 in terms of fire door replacement. So that's sort of very brief whistle-stop tour in terms of progress. Happy to take questions.
Yeah.
Thank you. On page 171, the sentence that says there's a significant shortfall of 75 million. It would be interesting, which is being looked at, and I know it's being looked at by senior officers, but it would be interesting to have an update on that. And what isn't mentioned here is the 40, I can't remember if it was 47 or 49 million that was flagged for leaseholder payments that we were told was going to be reviewed to see how much of that leaseholders really ought to be paying, given that at least some of it must have been caused by the neglect of the city. And that's not mentioned here. So it's the money side that I'm interested in.
Okay, Helen.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment about the money side as well, because I think this. I understand, Greg, what you're trying to report to us here, but there's kind of what's already happened or what's already underway, and there's what's to come. And I think that we have to be clear in the introduction to the report exactly what this one is about, because it's not, I think, to do, because that 110 wouldn't be the right number if it was everything. And of course, at this point, everything is still under discussion and therefore isn't appearing yet in public papers. So we have to be very clear about what we're discussing in public through this report and what is to come. And I think perhaps, Sandra, some of your comments might be better placed in non-public, and we have that conversation.
Just hold on 1 second. We're just going to tell Philip Woodhouse that we keep seeing the inside of his car. And he might want to stop and see that.
The inside of his car.
Did you see them?
Hopefully he's heard that, Philip. James, I think you were next.
Well, sorry, actually, what I want to say is I do want to ask a question on this, but I'd like to do it in non-public, please.
I just wonder, Town Clerk, whether, given where we're drifting in this conversation, that we should have these questions in non-public.
It depends on. unfortunately, I'm not able to advise unless I know what the question is. So I can do lots of things as assistant town clerk. I'm very afraid mind reading is not one. I'll put it on my appraisal objectives. So I think we can always err on the side of caution. And if it becomes apparent that it is of public interest, or if we can even do a public summary, we can make sure that an appropriate public summary is in the public minutes. And of course, you can raise it at your next meeting, or indeed, there are many other ways we can publish information beyond just in this subcommittee if it's a matter of public interest. So that's sort of my hedging my bets, Chairman.
That's very good advice, Town Clerk, and I think we'll do that. So we'll return to this conversation in non-public. Anything not non-public that people want?
All I wanted to say was I only raised it because it's in the public section.
Yeah,
of
we
the
understand.
paper.
But what Greg's done, quite rightly, is actually puts things in this report that is in the public domain, but there are a range of things going on that we probably need to discuss in non-public. Okay, so we'll do that. Any other questions that's not about the finance that people want to raise in this report? No? Okay, thank you. Town Clerk.
I probably just for full transparency ought to stress in terms of reviewing things in non-public, members are well aware there are only 7 statutory reasons why we do consider things in non-public. So I'm assuming they're asking for that with that in mind. That was item 13. Item 14 then is questions on matters relating to the work of the subcommittee.
Anne, did you have a question?
I've now got 2 questions. Sorry, I missed the opportunity to ask the question at the right time. So if I can ask my question now.
Is that because you're holding a baby at the time?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good enough excuse.
I think it was the speed at which the thing was progressing. Thank you. I appreciate the speed. The question about voids. We've got very long delay on voids when you compare it with the London and national medium. We're way off kilter. So
okay, that's
what's been done.
And the other one?
The other one is just say Black Raven Court update. Why the delay?
So do you want to do voids, and maybe Judith wants to say something about Black Raven Court?
Okay, as regards voids, yes, the time taken to turn over our homes is unacceptable. We acknowledge that, and it's there in the figures. And it's unacceptable not only because it means that people can't move, but also the HRA isn't the healthiest, and that has an impact on the bottom line as well. So what we've been doing is that we've been taking that whole area of the service apart, because voids is one of the only services in housing which actually touches on probably all teams in housing department plus teams outside, depending on the constitution of an organisation. So we've had to date, we've held 2 workshops where we trapped ourselves in a room and we just went through it from the initial notification from a resident or not, because people don't always tell us, to actually handing the empty home back so that people can move in. And so we've gone through that whole process over 2 workshops. We are mapping it. We're looking to do a map of that whole process using our Civica system, which and that module has been updated to take that into account. And we've also been involving the contractor, Chigwell, the contractors, who actually this is one of their areas of expertise. And once we've got everything laid out, we will be also working with them more closely to give us some ideas on how we can crunch time. Our internal deadline for this is getting this sorted this side of Christmas, because we just need to map it, we need to get people involved, and we need to have the backup of having it systemized, because one of the issues we face is that we have lots of things that we do on spreadsheets which don't necessarily talk to different people.
Okay.
So
right.
It's a high priority area.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Judith, do you just want to say something about Black Raven Court?
Yeah, just briefly, we're still waiting for building control authorisation. Then we'll register with building safety regulator, and then we'll have an occupation plan. So, but we'll pick it up in more detail at Golden Lane Cripplegate members meeting on Thursday, if that's all right. Thank you.
Okay, I understand there's a delay at the Islington end. Has that been resolved?
Yes, it has been resolved. They're waiting for a piece of information from us at the moment, I think, which is on heating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Town Clerk.
Item 15, we have any other business that the chairman considers urgent. We do have an item, but don't panic, members. You already have it. It was published with the PAT, but it was in non-public. So the proposal is, much like my previous piece of advice, to move item 20 on social housing tenancy fraud investigations annual report, which is on page 203, and take it here for the benefit of those watching. But that has been published on the City Corporation website, so it is available. I think there may, much like the previous item, there may be a question that is raised where the officer may give advice that is taken in non-public under the relevant section, but there's nothing actually within the report itself which should be withheld, so that's why it's been moved.
Okay, thanks. Chris, do you want to say anything about this?
Sure, thank you, Chairman. Just let everyone know who I am. Chris Keasing. I head up the Counter Fraud team in the Chairman's Department. Chairman, this is quite a hopefully quite a straightforward report. It details our work, Counter Fraud investigation work across the housing HRA in 24-25. It also gives a little bit of a forward look for the proactive work we're doing in this reporting year, and some of the sort of key work this year, or the key work I should say for last year. Really positive outcomes. We recovered 6 properties. They've been returned to those in the greatest need of housing. We've also made some recommendations you will see within the report, and also really continue to support our housing allocations team in denying applications. So that work continues, and to recover the property and make sure that only those with the need to be in housing are there and not lost to fraud. Some of the key work for this year, paragraph 14, you'll note, members, the proactive credit reference agency matching. We've done this exercise around about 10 years ago, 10 to 12 years ago, and it was really successful. We've revisited that. The idea being that matches against credit reference data, our tenant data against credit reference data, and identifies potential concerns for my team to investigate. We've already had one in the first 3 weeks, one successful outcome. We've recovered a property. It wasn't identified anywhere else, and that work continues. So it's a key focus for my team during this year. Paragraph 13, members, you will note I work for London NFI Fraud Hub. The London Fraud Hub is a collaboration of 26 London boroughs plus the City of London Corporation, and it means that we can identify cross-boundary fraud for probably one of the first times. So it's quite an exciting project and initiative which is run across London. We're looking to join those hubs with other areas as well, so we can really try to tackle fraud and abuse more holistically, not just with houses, a number of other areas, but the key focus of housing for us as housing tenancy fraud is a key risk. And just to note on paragraph 16, the work that we're doing on the credit reference agency matching, we're looking to really support the tenancy audit on that by using some key sort of intelligence to say to our inspectors, or sorry, I should say our visiting officers, when they go out, this property, there may be a fraud risk. So my team will support as necessary on that.
Okay.
I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Chris. Any questions to Chris? No? Okay, happy to agree it. Okay, thank you. Town clerk.
Just to confirm, that was an information report, but happy to know, thank you. In which case, if there's no items of AOB, we move to item 16, which is the exclusion of the public. I understand at this point the inspectors are also going to drop off, so much to thank.
Okay, yes, I've been told by the town clerk I must thank the inspectors, so thank you very much for observing our meetings today. Everybody happy to go into non-public now?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll just stop the recording. Bear with me 1 second. Thank you, Jen.